back, everybody. Oh, my recording notification. Um, Welcome back, everybody, for the August edition of Drinks Professionals Networking Roundtable. I thank you all for showing up, and as I've said, for those of you, we have a few new faces here, but many returning people. That the value of this is really the value that we get from each other by participating. We do have this month, we do have a kind of a call to action. I know that Stephanie set out, trying to get people to bring guests, and we had a few guests, although I think, well, Wendy has someone, I guess that counts. We've been doing this now for 6 months, I believe. It started out where we were following the model that was really developed by Stephanie and the team at Real Professionals Network Commercial Real Estate, and it was a different model. It was a fee-based pay-to-play. Started out initially as a pay-to-play in-person lead generating lead gen groups for commercial realtors, real estate people, non-competitive, so tenant brokers, lawyers, contractors, what have you, anyone from sign companies to whatever. And it's been very successful. In COVID, they had to do the pivot to Zoom, and it changed the dynamic in terms of being able to do roundtables that brought people together from a variety of disciplines and a variety of locations. So we took a page from that, but the page we didn't take was to charge any money for it. Our intention has been to build this group, to prove value from the participants, and then collectively to put our heads together and see who we know that might have value, a company. And I'm not suggesting it's an individual distillery, but it's should be a supplier who would see value in sponsoring this. So that's really our next phase challenge is really, and then we're not looking for a lot of money. We're looking for just enough to cover Stephanie's time and and to keep this going for all of our benefits. So I throw that out there, and we'll I would love to talk more about it. But I think the best thing to do right now, and Stephanie, if you want to, I think we should do just a very top of the month. Anyone who's new, can do a little intro of them. But even if you've been on, just do a brief. Here's who you are, what you do, without your whole story. But let's talk about what we're seeing, what trends, what pain points, what opportunities from all of our perspectives. And I guess I will begin because I think that something absolutely insane is going on in the contract sourcing, whiskey especially, markets right now. And it started happening in January, but I mean, this past month has been extraordinary in terms of the people, the buyers that are turning to sources for their juice. Some of these are large brands too, not just startups, and not just smaller craft suppliers. And anything with any age, it's not lasting. I mean, we literally on Tuesday got access to 250 barrels of 5 to 6 year old bourbon, MGP. So it's not like a rare, but it was 5 to 6 years old. And in one email, not even I didn't even get it listed. It got sold to a very large, brand. And we've got people like lining up for this stuff, and it's going faster. I didn't even have time to get the list out for 24 hours. So it's crazy. And the prices that they're getting are pretty extraordinary. I mean, this 5 to 6 year old MGP product, sold for $3,800 a barrel. And which is still a reasonable price, but, and then the week before we had some 4-year-old, 3.5-year-old come available, and that sold for $3,600 so a barrel. And these are numbers that a year ago a 4-year-old bourbon would have maybe gotten $3,000 a barrel, 32 if it was really something special. I mean, Stephen, you probably plugged into a little bit to that because you're producing, but now that's gone up 20-25%. I don't know how long it'll last, but it's lasting. And hello, Paula, and hello, Tanya. I'm seeing new faces. So anyway, that's what I'm seeing. Let me throw it to Lisa. So Lisa can tell us why she's here and what she's seeing.
Thank you. I was invited to be kind of a fly on the wall here in this group by Wendy and Jim. My company is My Brand Force, and we work with getting new products to market, helping them with distribution and a little bit of branding. So we've been working with Wendy and Jim and the Wild Hair Distillery, kind of new, working with them in conversation for a little while now and helping them just penetrate the Arizona market and then head out nationally. So I'm more on a different side, not so much the producer side.
No, but that's fair. To a degree, I'm on that side too. So what have you been working with other brands?
My background has been in the hospitality industry for the past 30 years. More on the restaurant side. Recently, I'm down here in Arizona, and recently I was a manager of a brewery. So a lot of food and beverage background in my history. Done a lot of catering for events, director of sales, marketing, that kind of thing. So
cool.
There you go.
Okay, well, welcome. So Wendy
you.
and Jim, you might follow that since you're kind of connected.
Sure. A couple things. We're a Wild Hair Distillery in Tempe. We're a small handcraft producer. We produce agave spirits as our main line. The main line is called Drove. And then we also do whiskey and rye, and just, I would call it more of a bourbon mash whiskey. Nothing is 4 years old. It's all a little bit younger, and we use unique techniques, the unique barreling with more surface area and things of that nature to age some of our product in-house. If it's okay to talk about a little bit, we're also seeing a lot of strain in the sourcing market because we do private labeling as well. So we've struggled to get some of the more aged products. So we're seeing a lot of.
You're living it. Yep, you're living it as well. Yep.
Yeah, so we are seeing that as well. I would say for us, our struggle is probably more on the marketing side. That's where we need to really hone in on our strategy for what we need to do to kick it up. We are also crazy busy, unbelievably so. So we've been a little bit floored over that because normally in the summer, especially where we are in that Phoenix area, it's so hot, so many people leave. We're seeing still tons of out of towners coming in, lots of people coming in. So we think that's been pretty good so far overall.
I would imagine that's, pent up COVID and the fact that while people are vacationing, they're staycationing.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say one of the things that I wanted to just bring up with the group, and when it's appropriate, you let me know. I actually invited it's called Drink Me Tea Room. It's also in Tempe, Arizona. We both attended the restaurant and bar convention in Vegas last month, but that was brought together with the World Tea event. Although that doesn't sound like a great combination, believe it or not, there are quite a few distilleries now that are doing tea infusions and tinctures. So it was very interesting, since we do a lot of infusions at our, with our agave spirit, to actually talk with her, since she's one of our customers, on some products that we can do and label it as, a joint, in essence, a joint venture with them.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So how was the show overall compared to previous?
Well, so it's my first time attending the show overall. So unfortunately, I don't have a good comparison. She had and said that this year it was much smaller. I thought overall the marketing component was really heavy, the social media piece. So for us, that was a big deal for us. The infusions and the tea, how it tied into tea, it just seems like an untapped market. There's not a whole lot of people working with tea producers or manufacturers, those that are importing it to the US to work together in bulk to do the tea infusions. It seems much smaller. So the tinctures, infusions in general, I thought it seems like that's going to be the next up and coming thing, possibly, especially in the craft world, and for the tea rooms that are serving liquor, which I also found amazing for all those that were attending the conference.
That's it. By the way, anyone here going to ADI coming up in August? No, American Distilling Institute in Louisville. Paula.
I'm supposed to go and speak, but I may not be able to make it.
I am the media correspondent.
Oh,
So I'll
that's
be
right.
I'll be conducting all interviews with anybody that's there that would like to get up and share live their story.
I'll be there. So Stephen, tell me what's happening in your world. And I'm assuming that your tasting room is.
Oh, it's rocking. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm the founder and co-owner of Golden Moon Distillery here in Golden, Colorado. And I do a lot of things around the industry. So I'm a former board member at ADI. I run their veterans committee, since we just talked about ADI, and I'm on their research committee as well. I'm on the national advisory board for Discus. I've been very active in ACSA. I do some stuff with the Gin Guild and the Worshipful Company Distillers in London. So I get around, and I run government affairs for the Colorado Distillers. So I get around a lot.
In his spare time, he's the master distiller.
Yeah, and so I'm the master distiller here at Golden Moon. I am a consulting master distiller. I'm just finishing up a big project in Ireland. I'm in negotiations with a large project in Tennessee. And in my free time, I'm trying to keep my little distillery running. We're actually on track to grow 40% over 2019, but COVID beat us up pretty bad. So, you know, we're actually going to let go of a little equity. We're in the middle of a capital raise because we need the cash. Something I've been avoiding doing. Now, having said that, you asked about our tasting room. Our tasting room, Golden Moon Speakeasy, is utterly booming. We'll be up 20% over 19 levels this year at Golden Moon Speakeasy. If you haven't heard about our Speakeasy, regularly gets accolades. Most recently, Gin Magazine named us the Gin Bar of the Year, which is a global award. So that's a pretty big accolade. I don't think a distillery tasting room has ever gotten an accolade of that type. It's normally, you know, bars that are listed in the top 50 bars and are major destinations.
That says something about your gin, because you're serving your own products. You're not serving.
Correct. Everything at the Speakeasy is a Golden Moon product. So 60 plus cocktails, whiskeys, gins, all liqueurs, all alcohol, all potable alcohol inputs into our cocktail program are produced here at Golden Moon. Some of those are based on found spirit, whether that be neutral or finished whiskey, but you know, all the liquors, liqueurs, and gins we distill off a neutral. All the single malts are grained to glass. All the grappas are fruit to glass. The brandies and the Applejack are fruit to glass. The gunfighters are found spirits, which are bourbons and ryes. Then we grow a lot of our own botanicals. We source botanicals all over the world. So we do a lot of different things at our little distillery that it's probably broader than most people's production capacity and capability. It's been an interesting, year and a half, but the last month as well. Things are utterly booming in many ways, but it's weird. We're still seeing a predisposition towards lower to mid-range bourbons and ryes. The demand seems to be going very high for that. The higher end, like the Colorado single malts, the American single malts. I mean, I'm a member of the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission as well. And most of my pals there, we're seeing some growth in that segment, but not the type of growth we expected 2 years ago. People are really, really focused on, hey, I want a bourbon, or I want a rye, and I want a cocktail. At least that's what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. I think that's interesting. Well, you know, that would make sense, given that in the early days of the pandemic, everybody was, if they were experimenting with something mainstream. You know, they were running in and grabbing and going. And I think you got a lot of people who probably weren't exploring into unique single malts at that point, American single malts. But and one other thing before, I don't want to get too deep into this because we talk more about it, but I know that you're also, you know, working on the resumption of export
Mhm.
And so, I don't know if you've got any news on that front in terms of.
Yeah, so it's been hit and miss. The UK government released a statement saying they believe that our issues with steel and aluminum between the UK and the US would be resolved by fall. I think they said October. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but that is what they're saying. And the UK and the EU are different creatures at this point. So you all know, we, the American spirits industry, we've lost 54% of our export market into the UK since 2018. We've lost 49% of our export market into the EU since 2019. As essentially collateral damage, if you will, for the steel and aluminum and Airbus trade disputes and the way that the U.S. government handled them.
Mhm.
We're working on it. I'm involved with Discus on some of those discussions. We are seeing a trickle of exports. I mean, I've got our first pallet in 15 months headed to Taiwan, sitting on my shipping dock right now. But I mean, we shipped a tall boy of single malt to Norway at the end of last year. Finally, after 3 years of hard work, got a placement in their national monopoly, which is a big deal, and making us only the second American single malt ever to do so, the first being Westland. And the national monopoly held the shipment and wouldn't receive it because it still had the high tariffs on it. And 5 months later, they canceled our placement. And so I have a pallet load of beautiful Colorado single malt whiskey sitting in a warehouse in Norway, hoping we're going to find our way back into the monopoly. It's in a bonded warehouse, so they're not paying tax on it.
Right.
Once the trade dispute is over. But we're in a holding pattern where
What is the timing on the lifting of the tariffs? Because that has been
again, maybe October is what has been postulated by the UK government.
Announced at the beginning of June, but it's still right.
Well, so June was the escalation. So June, both the UK and the EU were supposed to escalate to 50% punitive tariffs.
Okay, so
they put that on hold.
There's still the 25%.
Still the 25%. And I mean, so my importer in the UK, I mean, I have an entire 3-year production and distribution plan with them. We've been registered for a couple of years with the UK government for our tax stamps. And, they're like, yeah, you're supposed to commit to how many stamps you want per year. And, I got an email saying, why aren't you ordering stamps? And it's because no one's importing because of the trade war. So is what it is.
And I think the natural segue is to get the European perspective on this from Jürgen.
Who's been nodding his head every time I say
he's been nodding his head. That's what I said. That was an easy segue for me.
Well, yeah, okay, Stephen, this is exactly what you said. Apart from that, October is really, really very unlikely, to be honest. I've had a chat with the chairman of the European Committee, who is responsible for these talks, and from the German side, I have to say, and he told me that maybe December could be something that we could look into, but certainly not October. So that looks like it is at present. And yeah, it's very difficult. However, on the German market, we have tremendous problems. For example, getting stuff from the US. I have many importers here in Germany waiting for stuff to come to Europe, depending on transport capabilities, transport possibilities. Rotterdam is a big issue, a huge issue here. So we ain't going to get the stuff, even if it's into Rotterdam, we don't get it into the countries. So that's another big problem. So there's a few things down the line to get the stuff into the European countries, and especially into Germany, which is the country where I'm based. Furthermore, yes, we are trying our very best to increase the amount of American spirits onto the German market in making people aware of the quality. So I can only say about myself, I've done several tastings with American spirits, including single malts and the American Single Malt Society, certainly, and have mentioned this. But it's the same every time you talk to these guys. You want to have the stuff, and at the end of the day, everybody says, well, probably in 3 to 6 to 8 or 12 months we'll be able to deliver. And that's obviously the work we do now goes into an empty space because you can't have the things to buy from.
All right,
Hey, let me add one more thing to that real quick, and that is that as a result of COVID, we're also seeing an unprecedented shortage in both sea container availability and in ocean lift availability. And so what that means for all consumer goods, not just our products, is increased cost and increased lead times. I mean, I mentioned I have a skid sitting on the dock for Taiwan. They've been saying the forwarder is going to call us for a month. I finally learned the reason they haven't called us is they don't have LTL space or LCL space.
Mhm.
So LCL is less than container load space. So
Yeah, the overall inflationary impact it's still, I think it's still too early to understand how long it's going to last and what kind of impact it's going to have on finished goods pricing. Let's go to Weston, because you're next in the what was this? What was the game show? Hollywood Squares.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hey
Welcome.
guys. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me. So I am a connector, producer, and community builder here in Austin, Texas, which means I do like freelance biz dev for a couple of folks that are in the CPG space. One's a branding and package design firm out of Mexico. And then the other group that I'm involved with is Grant Barco Capital. They're an early stage VC fund out of Iowa. And then I produce television and film projects and a lot of events at Sundance, South by Southwest, Art Basel, and doing a big event in the Hamptons in 2 weeks. So, and anytime you want to get in front of specific audiences, feel free to reach out, because I usually have friends that are producing events with that audience, or I myself am doing that.
I think, Weston, I just want to do a little testimonial here, because you and I, we connected on LinkedIn some time ago, a year ago. And we've had a couple of conversations, and everyone has, you've been able to connect me with someone that was meaningful and relevant. So that's why I invited Weston here, because he's a good person to know. I mean, I know there's a number of us or you on the call. Stephen, you alluded to it. Where funding is key. He's got some relationships in that space, and in fact, Weston, I'm going to be sending you some information on that on behalf of Stephen. But I think it's also a testament to the power of networking and taking that extra step on LinkedIn, sifting through the spam and saying, oh, while this person isn't directly in my industry, maybe there's some value there. And I think that's why I was grateful that you were available to join, because I think that's important. So.
Yeah, no, and I
have a question for Weston. Weston, what
for it.
event are you doing in the Hamptons in 2 weeks?
So my girlfriend runs a female entrepreneurship community called Philly, and so we're doing a big event with female entrepreneurs and investors. It's on the August 14th.
Oh, so okay, it's probably too late for me to get in, but I have a lot of wines that are very female driven.
Oh, very cool. I can send you information.
I haven't heard of the event in the Hamptons in the next couple of weeks, so interesting.
Well, maybe, right? Get some exposure there. Well, Carrie, tell us more.
I always feel like the oddball of these things, because I think I'm the only one on the wine side. So my company produces wine out of Italy, and I manage from New York down to, well, now I actually go to Alabama and Mississippi. Things were kind of looking up and up for a while, but I feel like things are getting canceled again right now because of the scare of COVID coming back, which is really unfortunate, which is why I asked you about the event that you had, because I have a lot of things that are going back to virtual. Even like I had a sales meeting here on Wednesday at my distributor at the last minute, 12 hours before they turned it into a virtual meeting. So is so disappointing. You know, I do have a new territory. I moved back from New York to Atlanta. So I'm managing a lot of the states in the South that I have not had a chance to even meet a lot of people in person. So
That's gonna be tough. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, hopefully, you know, I do think we are at this very strange moment where it's like things that, you know, we're supposed to happen, like Obama's birthday party on Saturday night, you know, gets pulled back at the last minute.
well, I mean, there's the New York Wine and Food Festivals coming up. I know Miami did happen. I mean, that was an interesting turnout. The Atlanta Food and Wine Festival is coming up in September. I'm still skeptical if that's really happening, but there's all these things that people, I don't know, they just keep getting canceled one by one. It's really a shame.
New York Times today did a whole photo essay on, they sent like teams of reporters and photographers out to capture the nightlife in New York at the beginning of July when everything was really supposed to open up.
Yeah,
And
I was there.
you were there. So, but there's
I've been there every month, and I have another trip this month, but I have a feeling the way things are headed, I do have a meeting set up in September also, but I have a feeling that's probably going to be the end for the rest of the year because people are just canceling things again.
There's murmurs that they're going to shut down again, but we're still proceeding with our event. It's 200 people. It's out in the Hamptons, and we're knowledgeable of the local government are keeping us updated, but there is a chance that they could shut it down.
Where is the event, if you don't mind me asking?
Watermill.
Okay.
Is it primarily outdoors though, or no? It's all.
Yeah, it's outdoors.
Yeah.
It's at my friend's like estate.
So that gives you a little bit of.
So that'll probably happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your girlfriend's, what the event is. I know you said what it was, but is it hundreds of people or thousands?
200.
Okay, so I bet you'll be good.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see, Paula, are you still with us or just your photo? That's the answer. Hello, Sharman.
Hey.
I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute fast enough, but go ahead, you can come back to me.
No, well, let's talk to Paula because I think I want to, continue this. Paula is one of the most amazing, dynamic women in the industry, and she's local choice spirits. She's Striped Pig Distillery. She's involved in a lot of things and makes things happen. Somehow. Always. So I want to just get a sense of what you're seeing in this, because you're seeing it both from a perspective of a local destination distiller, as well as in terms of being responsible for brands that are distributed widely across the country.
So I used to consider myself somewhat of a SME, subject matter expert. Now I'm like, I know nothing. I do this all day. I'm walking a tightrope without a net, and I can't breathe. So there you have it.
Wow, sounds great. How's Tyler Boone and Boone's Bourbon?
Our Boone's Bourbon is doing really well. All the products. I mean, that is not the challenge. The sales are not the challenge. It's yes, managing the supply chain. We actually survived very well from a team perspective the first year for COVID, but the second year and the Delta variants, we're having more illness and more sickness, and managing that side of it has been our frustration. So we survived okay the first time. The second time, I don't know, people are getting sick, and even though we've all been vaccinated and our hands are in alcohol all the time, you go to the doctor, and even myself, I was down for almost a month, and they're like, oh no, you can't have COVID. You were vaccinated twice. And yet sometimes they don't even want to test. So we've had some struggle with just keeping everybody healthy, honestly. And fortunately now, I guess I'm healthy twice. So I wonder what's going to happen.
But it is frightening, especially now that Moderna yesterday, said you're going to need a booster after 3 months, and it's now 3 months for a lot of, or more for some people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Paula, where are you, Paula?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. So anyway, that's been a challenge too. And then locally, from a business perspective, everybody, we kind of went back to total normalcy in Charleston. Not that we ever got that far away. But hospitality did close everything down. And so for the last 2 to 3 months, everything's been back open to normal, not pre-COVID normal, but to somewhat normal operations. But now they're threatening to shut everything down again and require masks all over again. And here's what, it's happening going for the numbers, and the hospitals are increasing. So I don't know what kind of panic mode it's gonna put into people, but we're versatile enough to work on what I've now been embracing, the whole bespoke opportunity to put any liquor in any glass with any label on it and sell it. It's like, just keep things going, And
Now, Paula, I've been to Charleston a few times in the last couple of months, and you wouldn't think anything was going on. I mean, it was like crazy. And then I don't know if it had already taken place or if it's about to take place. There was like a margarita crawl or something.
They do all kinds of things constantly. Yeah. I mean, they probably do one of those a month,
That was
but
still going
yeah.
on the last I heard. I don't know. I went
Yeah,
to
that's
all
what I'm
those
saying. It's
places
like
in Shem
nothing
Creek,
ever
like
happened.
Shem Creek, you wouldn't even know like anything ever happened.
For this year, it's pretty much been like nothing's ever happened. The last couple of months, like nothing's ever happened. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with the numbers moving forward.
So in Atlanta, I don't know if those, so Atlanta, we've got this situation where, in Georgia, the governor, nothing's going to shut down, everything's going to go on. But in Atlanta, we're back to a mask mandate indoors. And starting today is the return of this 3-day Dogwood Festival, which usually attracts, hundreds of thousands of people. So it'll be interesting to see, because it was too late to shut it down. We're doing that. Crazy. And I'm going to go to Tanya.
Well, wait, let me finish this one thought with you guys, because I think this is important. So that's what's happening internally. And part of us are being forced to do that because our distribution channels are shut down. So we have national distribution, and the distributors even the CEOs of the distribution companies are getting back to me after weeks of being, they're out of the office. And I'm like, okay, nobody's taking this many vacations. So there has to be some breakdown in the people and the trucking and the delivery, people being sick. Something's happening because it's just taking too long to get responses from everything. Breakthrough is one of our national distributors. Normally they pick up in a 2 weeks time. We must have sent them 4 or 5 emails saying your product is still here. Your pallets are still here. Your pallets are still here. It took 5 weeks for them to pick up something they normally pick up in 2 weeks. So I don't know what's going on.
Well, I know that truckers don't want to work is part of the problem. They don't have anyone to drive the trucks.
That's a big
problem everywhere.
Prices have gone up. It wasn't supply, it was nobody to deliver it.
No, yeah. That's all over the whole country. It's like you just can't get people to work. They're making more money by doing nothing.
Yeah, I was in Vegas and they were having a gas shortage, and it wasn't because of the gas. They didn't have any tankers that would deliver.
Yeah,
I got stuck in Charleston during the gas shortage. And was that June or July? I don't even know. I couldn't get out of South Carolina. There was no gas anywhere.
We've had the same issue here in Colorado. And so you all know, I don't know if you've heard about this, but I'm sure somewhere in your supply chain, you're going to get hit with it. I-70, which is one of the 3 major east-west thoroughfares here in Colorado, was literally wiped out at Glenwood Springs about a week ago. And they're talking that road won't be open for commercial traffic for months. And what that's causing, if we have deliveries coming from California into Colorado, they're having to take 80 and come down through. It's adding another 8 to 10 hours of transit and another $400 to $500 per load. So y'all might see that if you got stuff moving east-west.
Yeah. And my China loads too. Every time I turn around, it's another $3,500. Oh, we missed, it's another $2,600. And then they're still not moving.
Yep.
So it looks like Michael had a little bit of a glitch on his end. Who have we not heard from? Tanya?
It sounds like you guys are hitting on everything that I'm seeing. I'm kind of on the ground here in Atlanta, still heading out to all the speakeasies and heading out for all the distillery tours. So with us, I'm a local ambassador for a major social organization, and I also used to host a podcast for a small brand.
Which you may be doing again at some point.
Well, okay. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a break. But in terms of the social group, that conversation with tea and whiskey, it's starting to brim up at this group as well. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because that's certainly a market that's not out there. People want to know what to do with it. They know about the hot toddy, but not much else. So they're wanting more, because not all of us are coffee drinkers all of the time. In terms of speakeasies, we're hearing a lot about how the sports bar is not necessarily the place to be, nor is the local place like Cheers, but more so the speakeasy experience. They're wanting sort of the allure of beautiful spaces, nice cocktail drinks, and small intimate groups. And so near you, Michael, JoJo's Beloved just opened, and they are booked for the entire next month. I can usually get a spot in a place, cannot get a spot at JoJo's Beloved unless you walk in.
I was there last week. I was there last week, and it's awesome.
I've never been, but what's the one downstairs of Muss and Tanner's? That's near me. I keep hearing about that.
Oh, you need to go there, but that's
Is it like
this one is,
Eleanor's or?
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
Eleanor's, but this one is at Colony Square.
Yeah. So
Oh.
that one's booked unless you go walk in at like 4. But the Bar Margot's and the lots of other places in Atlanta, they're still hopping and doing quite well. They're actually packed. I did have the opportunity to celebrate Victoria Edie Butler's 60th birthday of Uncle Nearest here in Atlanta a couple of weekends ago. Every venue was absolutely packed. We had the best time ever. I'll mention.
I wanted to have you just talk about, because you've alluded to it, but Black Bourbon Society is the social organization, and they've been getting a lot of traction with the events that they're doing around the country, in different markets. You were the one in Atlanta.
Yeah, so my job here, we hosted the Open Door events, which was sponsored by Jim Beam. And so a lot of those events were centered around supporting local, small, minority-owned businesses to keep traction and to keep people going into these venues during this time. And so we found that all of those events have been extremely successful, but sort of consider thinking outside of the box in terms of how to keep traction, how to keep people in these venues. So yeah, that's been great as well. I'll mention Jay Reiger out of Kansas City. I had a chance to visit their distillery about a month and a half to 2 months ago. And they are increasing all of their outdoor spaces and thinking about how to use a distillery, not only just as a place for their restaurants and the tours, but also for wedding events and corporate events and conferences and things of that nature. So if those distilleries can be built out, because they are gorgeous spaces where corporate and executive events can happen, then people are going to want to go there. So that's a distillery I encourage you all to visit. Also, what we're noticing internally with BBS is that there's a little bit of a fervor over what they perceive as the bottle shortage. You were talking about sort of blockchain and availability of spirits. And so members in this organization, when I think we're about 25,000 strong, are starting to network a lot more. It's like, if you're in Atlanta, can you get me some bottles up here in North Carolina? I need those. And it's happening big time with Blue Run and all of their more recent releases. So, me personally, I was able to stop by a little shop that just opened, and they didn't really know what they had, and picked up like 6 bottles of Blue Run and pushed them out to friends in multiple states. So your consumers are wanting the product there. They're not wanting the junk there. They're wanting the good stuff there, and they want it now. And I know you guys already know that. So that's just my spiel on my end. Wendy, you're just smiling at me up there.
Well, I love that you were talking about the tea stuff. So I appreciate that. And the speakeasy in the small space. We have a very small tasting room. So we find people love to come in just their, what I call their bubble or their group of people.
That's the safe space, right?
And they love it. And they love that whole just experience, because it's not, there's really very few people they don't know, if there's any.
Right.
I want to
So
share with you guys, just because of what you're sharing, that just so you know, that I actually launched the first African-American tea infused spirit about 5 years ago. It's called Jasmine Tea. Jasmine is, and we launched that with Dwight Eubanks. And then, and our tea, we actually have a tea line in Charleston. So you know, we have the Charleston Tea Plantation. So I have a couple of tea products, and we're actually putting a straight pig tea and coffee product in the marketplace. So you can buy the tea and the coffee, and then we're using the tea and the coffee in our vodkas and our gins. So we're crossing
Loving
the
it.
lines with the teas and with our coffees. And then since you're here and I'm excited about the Black Bourbon Society, I'm dropping a press release today that we are launching the first ever African-American female to win a Grammy in the hip hop space. And her name is Anastasia Hera. And our new brand is going to be called Hera, Hera, the female version of hero. And it talks collectively about how we're giving back to the diversity branding, which is really, you know, my play in the marketplace, and what we can speak to that. And so I just finished the podcast with iHeartRadio right before you guys, and Keisha Esprit is doing the drop on the whole diversity branding and what we're doing. So I'm delighted. And then next week when I'm in ADI, we will be hosting interviews with the first African-American distribution company that I actually created 2 years ago, called Legacy in Louisville. And I hope you guys get a chance to support them and build
I
them.
know those
It's
guys.
yeah,
You know
it's
them,
been a
yeah,
struggle. It's
yeah.
been a struggle. And it was amazing getting that to happen. We launched the second one in Atlanta, and unfortunately it's already closed down. So it's been a great time. But so thank you so much for your work. Any way that I can serve you, like you've touched my heart. I've got the goosebumpy thingies going on. So the pixie bumps are dancing. Anything I could do, I would love to participate.
Likewise, and thank you. We'll certainly connect.
And you know, we need to connect also, Tanya and Paula, to talk about the brand that's near and dear to our hearts, Tanya, with Paula. Right? We'll talk about that. Sharman, we have neglected to bring you to the forefront of this conversation.
No
So-
neglect at all. I shout out to Paula. Tanya, we got to talk, but Paula, thanks for your support. Kelvin is the hardest working man in show business, man. I love that guy. He has been a colleague, a collaborator, a counselor for Shared Spirits and what we're doing. He and his partner both, and I love those guys.
Yeah.
I was on the phone
So
with them last week.
did you ever hear their story of how we
Oh,
got
yeah.
started? Yeah.
Well,
Be-
a little, you know, I've been with him for about 5 years, I guess, as he just was doing the brand ambassador group.
Yes.
And then moved into the world, you know, that you
The
helped.
reason when we launched the brand ambassador group, we had Tiny's Tequila, Tiny and TI, and Boosie Juice. And literally, I could not get, this is what I heard. We're not accepting Black brands. We're not accepting Black brand. We don't do Black bottles. And so they were my brand ambassadors, and we went everywhere. I mean, I was on Louisville Forward. I was Louisville Food and Nation. I was everywhere. Live Nation brought me, I could not get distribution for those brands. And so finally, I said, we're going to fail, guys. I don't know what else to do. And finally, he said, what do we need to do? I said, we need a distributor. And they said, then let's do that. And so then we set up distribution. We had no choice.
I love it. I love it. Paula, you're like a Bruce Lee in water. You conform to whatever the vessel is.
Hey, I gave birth to 9 children. This stuff is easy peasy.
and most of them work in the company.
Yep, that's true.
Well, that's terrific. Every time I hear people who are supporting and helping Kelvin, you're an automatic friend of mine. That's
excellent.
Yeah.
I hope to meet you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I won't make it to Louisville. I'm in the midst of, Michael, a quick update, Nashville-based Shared Spirits. Our primary focus is digital activation with a mobile app and a campaign management tool that we call Beverage Marketing Software. Our most recent Apple release was July 12th. If you download it in your area, it won't be a great experience because I've got a typical platform problem. I need bars and restaurants to provide value to spirits and wine brands, and I need spirits and wine brands to provide value to bars and restaurants. So I happen to know how to solve that problem to some extent, and I'm doing it with channel partners across the country. And Michael, since you and I were on the phone last, I've probably brought 3 of those formally on. We'll launch our first on-premise location in Dallas, probably the end of next week, soon in Atlanta, soon in Denver, soon in Portland, soon in Vermont, Louisville, of course. Kelvin's a big connector for us up there, South Florida. So we're just slowly doing what you have to do when you're self-funded. We're solving that problem by going to market for money, like so many of you guys, next month. We've already got a little bit in, and we'll close the rest of a seed round. We've self-funded our technology up to this point, but what we do basically is compliantly convert marketing dollars into drink credits that are then redeemable at participating bars and restaurants. So it sounds real simple, but it's actually pretty damn complicated. Go ahead, Mike.
I just had a call 15 minutes before this to hear about a platform that fits right into this. And it's actually a question. There's a question here that I have for everyone, because I haven't even had a chance to contact a lawyer for it. But in a nutshell, this is a platform that gives you access to a network of content creators, people. They're rated by influence, how many followers, how many, what their topics are and all that. It allows you to put out a campaign. And so they showed me an example, and one of it was a clothing company. So they put out something that said, we're looking for people to, do a very specific, do a TikTok video using the product, wearing the product, talking about the product, do, boom, 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 a whole long list of things. They will go and, they'll send, if you have, under 1,000 followers, you get a free, you get the product. If you have, 1,000 to 5,000, we'll pay you $100 plus you get the product.
Yeah, I'm on several of those platforms.
So they got, in this campaign, they got 1,400 people to create content, and I saw a lot of it. It was pretty good stuff, and they're able to use it on their channels, and they also. So my question is this: if this were for a beverage brand, right? How would that? Because you're not going to ship, bottles of product to everybody. So one way to do it would be to use that platform to distribute drink credits, so people could go to specific places and order a drink and say, hey, I'm here at Joe's Bar and Grill with.
Yeah, the better application, though, in my opinion, would be for a spirits brand to partner with something like the Black Bourbon Society, where you have immediate intel on their favorite establishments. I incentivize those establishments to come on board, and then the spirits brand actually deploys drink credits through my software similar to ours, which I don't know exists, down specifically to the members of the Black Bourbon Society, who then have to redeem that drink in the participating restaurant. So in other words, our business model is really based around replacing that $10 to $15 per head per event that a Diageo intends to spend to get an activation done, when they don't know who the individual is and they don't know whether or not they've ever bought the product after the event. And that's the problem we solve for. To answer your question, Mike, that in our world, that influencer is going to be extremely important on those platforms, but only if they're in relationship with an environment where the spirits or wine brand is already on the shelf and participate. Because we redeem for a specific drink that features a specific brand,
And a specific
to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Well, and that's the part I've asked them. I said, for this to work, we'd need to know that we can filter, based on either demographics or geographics or interests, rather than just put it out there to the general world.
For brands that are interested in building image and brand, as opposed to actually sales, or they're willing to continue to count case counts instead of customer lifetime value. Those are going to be great solutions on the influencer side of things. It's hard to vote against that.
I have a question. I think this is a question that Jordan was asked, was curious about. Has anyone been familiar with TAG? This is the Tony Abu Ghanem thing. I'm assuming that's what it is, Jordan. And I know Tony, and Tony's a great person to know and very well connected, but I've been on some of his Sunday afternoon cocktail mixology from his kitchen Zooms over the past couple months, but I haven't been to any of his events. I actually met him, God, it's got to be 15 years ago at the Cheers Beverage Conference in Miami. When I sat in on, he did a gin tasting, and it opened my eyes to, the unique botanicals and flavor profiles and gin, because at that point I was not a gin connoisseur, and I just knew that there was Tanqueray, there was London Dry Gin and Tanqueray, and and it all tastes the same to me. But now it's totally not that case. But so he's a very good guy to know. I don't know. Has anyone been to any of his events?
Well, this is the first time this event is taking place, and it's also Julio Bemejo who is also with it. Tommy's Margaritas in California. That's where most people know him of, and so they have organized this, and I'm invited as a judge, but I don't know if I can travel. So that was my biggest concern.
Right. When is it?
End of October.
In October. Yeah, I actually saw. I got the email, and I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But so I don't know. That's a loaded. The question I would say is that anything if you can get to know and get in in Tony's world sphere of influence, it can't hurt. But yeah, question is whether you're going to be able to get from Germany to time and expense.
My biggest concern actually is not so much going into the US, but coming back to Europe, and maybe then I have to be going to quarantinized for 2 weeks, which would certainly block my business for 2 weeks, and I can't afford that. So that's where my concern comes from. I would certainly love to, because that seems to become a huge event, at least the way Julio was describing it to me.
Well, it has the potential to be. He's got street cred. So.
Hey, Michael, just very quickly, I want to reinforce what you said about LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn a while. It's my primary platform, but in conjunction with promoting a demo that I've got scheduled, you're aware of, on the 18th, I sent out 500 invites out of my connection list of people specifically in the spirits, wine, beer, and bar and supplier and distributor space this week, just specifically on LinkedIn. So, at first glance, people might not assume that their connections, the industry connections, may be there, but in fact, they really are. There's a huge community of our necessary connections on LinkedIn as well, and some of my biggest relationships have come from there, and also Lunch Club at this point as well.
Most definitely. All right.
So,
open
I was going to say, speaking of LinkedIn, I don't know if anybody would take the time to look on my LinkedIn, but yesterday I dropped my a pretty big press release on being the first major alcohol producer on the blockchain to launch NFTs behind spirits. I will be following up with additional information, but this is a platform that's designed to be open for all of us to be able to transform the beverage industry. And it's beverage and more, but obviously I'm concentrating on beverages to help give my brand partners a leg up in making history in this space. I would appreciate it if you would share it. It's been a lot to pull it together, and as a leader in tech, it's not just about the spirits for me, it's really also about technology, but also I love making platforms that make accessibility for everybody. So blockchain and crypto, trade bank, NFTs are conversations that aren't happening so much in our space. You're hearing it now more, but I know that it's the wave of how consumer goods are going to be distributed. And so we have launched a company called BarrelFi, Barrel Finance, but it's BarrelFi for short. And that is our platform. And it's moving the spirit space into the Web 3.0.
So you probably don't know this because we haven't done it, but Sherman and I are talking, and I have an investor group that's looking at this to create the Bourbon Bond Fund with a tokenized ability so people can trade. We've been going through the discussions, so we should talk more. And I need to read
Yes.
this more about it,
But our initial coin offering will be coming out soon, and the first NFT is going out now.
I loved it. I saw that press release, Paul, and I thought, what's the deal? She's got 9 kids. She's got 1 million companies. How much more time does she have? It was awesome. And I thought, well, she's got enough.
Remember what I said, walking a tightrope without a net. You got to figure it out.
yeah, exactly. Yes, and so our Carrie is using the chat to request a LinkedIn invite. Okay, good. From Paula. All right, so let's open up more open forum here. And then there was silence.
And I'm going to say one more thing.
Yeah, go.
Since I see so many beautiful women faces here. After ADI, I go to be a judge at the San Diego Spirits Festival. 4 years ago, I was the first woman judge at the San Diego Spirits Festival. And I would say, what, don't they know women have mouths? I don't understand this. This year, there's 6 women. I'm so excited. There's 5 men and 6 women. That's what happened in 4 years.
That's great. That's great. And how about what about diversity among?
We're diversity. It's the League of Nations. You should go on the San Diego Spirits Festival website. We've got every country covered.
That's great. That's excellent. Well, we definitely need to talk about so connection, Paula, you and I, and maybe Sherman in this conversation about blockchain, and we definitely need to talk about Joe Louis Bourbon and some opportunities there that Tanya and I are familiar with, because we're working on a deal to basically sell that brand to new owners that who represent diversity.
Yep.
And so that's the mission that's happening. Well, let's see what's our timing. Oh, we got time, unless so I guess unless we can. I don't have anything else to specific. I know we all have other things that we could be doing, but I also don't want to miss this opportunity for any opportunities for anyone to ask questions or share anything else that might be of interest to the group.
I would just love to say anybody who's making their way through Nashville, and it's going to be here for a while, whether it's an overnight or a day or a week, I'm definitely game for a coffee or a beer or a cocktail. So ping me. I would love to connect with anybody.
Can you send me a drink coupon?
Yeah, maybe so, or at least buy you one. We're onboarding restaurants, so who knows? Maybe I can do that. So
Weston says he's going to be there, so yeah, that's good. Yeah. Right, Weston, you're like all over the place.
I'm everywhere.
That's the job of a true connector.
Yeah.
Right. That's great. All right. Well, I want to thank you all again, and just a reminder, we're open. Stephanie and I, any thoughts you have in terms of who might see value in participating, but also who might see value in supporting this ongoing effort and generating some goodwill from those who participate and those who see it as we share what we share with others across platforms. So thank you all.
Thank you.
We have
Thank
lots of
you.
follow-up.
Hey, Michael,
Great
can we
to see
touch
everyone.
base in the next couple of days?
Absolutely, yes.
right.
And the answer, one of the answers to your question is I did not get your feedback, but I have distributed to a short list, and I was waiting for that to get it to the bigger list.
Yeah, let me get you that. It's been a crazy week, so.
No worries. And I'm going to make sure that it goes to Weston as well.
Yeah, I'd like to chat with Weston now that he's logged off.
Yeah. All right.
I'll make a note.
Nice to seeing everybody. I may see
Thank
you,
you.
Paula, at ADI. I may not.
That, oh, all right. Well, if you know if you're gonna go, I could do an interview with you.
So I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. And to be blunt, it's because of a medical issue.
Okay.
So I'm still trying to figure out if it's prudent for me to travel. So it is what it is.
Not worth it.
So
I'm already
bothered.
feeling sorry. I mean, I'm committed, right? But now there's just so much hitting out. There's
Well,
just
I
in the
mean,
last
you
week
know,
alone that I'm like, oh boy, this might have been premature.
I've got a call later today with Eric to figure out how we're going to handle the veterans thing and the research thing with my not being there.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to be there.
Right.
And then I was supposed to do some stuff with Moonshine University, and I've got a call with Clay to figure out how to reschedule that.
Yeah. Well,
Moonshine University. I need to ask you about that.
That sounds definitely interesting.
Well,
Moonshine
I was up in
University.
Sevierville last week meeting with a new distiller that's just planning on starting up, but they're right on the main drag in a high profile location. And I was blown away by, the high profile of the moonshine tourism industry there. There's, I don't know, 6 or 8 tasting rooms that all are massive.
Well, and so Moonshine University is really not about moonshine. Moonshine University is a training facility that has a DSP that is a wholly owned subsidiary of Flavorman in Louisville.
Oh, okay.
And so they also call themselves the Spirits Epicenter.
Right.
And very nice little facility, small distillery with both prototyping and production size stills, classroom, but literally connected to Flavorman.
So it's like a distilling 101 kind of thing.
They do a variety of classes, everything from they're offering a bourbon steward certification now.
Mm-hmm.
And what Clay and I have been talking about is twofold. One, my working with them to develop a gin steward certification.
Mm-hmm.
And two, the potential for using Golden Moon, because we do some classes here and have the ability in the space. I mean, ADI has done a whole bunch of stuff here over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe becoming their west of the Mississippi location.
Facility, yeah, to do that. That's cool.
And so I was actually supposed to go through their bourbon steward class this weekend. And well, there you have it.
well, Stephen, if there's any way, when you talk to Eric later, tell him that we spoke today.
Okay.
But if there's any way that I can help.
Hey, can you guys hang on? I've got to take this call.
Okay.
Yes,
I'm there to
dear.
help if you need. I can cover for you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Seth.
bye.
Call me, Michael.
I will.